Hi, I'm Dana, and as a little undiagnosed autistic kid, I constantly had questions. I was curious about everything, and so many things from my childhood and beyond, to be fair, I still just don't understand. I don't get it. I don't have a concept of it. I'm not grasping what everyone else is grasping. I don't get it. And this goes for a lot of things, honestly. And there's a lot of things that I've asked people, like, well, why do we do that? Why is that this way? And they're just like, because it is, because society decided. And I'm like, but if everyone hates it, why don't we just change things? But we don't. But none of these are actually all that deep. This is quite lighthearted and fun, don't worry. I say that, it's actually not. So the first one is why so many full-grown adults had absolute beef with me. Like, absolute went off the rails at me, like fully grown adults. So starting off with school, I had a few teachers that I'd have the odd moment with. Like my year 5 teacher at one point, I can't remember if I was reading or if I'd fallen asleep, but he like slammed my... I'm not that old, I swear, but we had those wooden desks with the lids that you open to have like your little drawer, and he came up and like opened that and slammed it so that I shit myself. I didn't actually shit myself, like, but it scared me. And there were like lots of little moments like that, or like we were all making like little ID cards to like pretend to be like police officers or something out in the yard when I'd missed the lamb, so I would have been in year 3, and I'd written like sex, female at the bottom, and then I got in loads of trouble for writing the word sex, and I was like, no, but that's what it says on badges. Like I've watched the bill, I watched Live on Mars, like it says your sex on it. And like things like that where I would expect adults to understand and like just not be assholes, but they were. And then in year 6, I had my first teacher that just despised me. I had multiple meetings where my parents had to come in. We had like meetings back and forth with her where she'd be like, well, why are you scared of me? And I'd be like, because you constantly shout at me and you get really mad at me for things I literally don't understand why you're angry at me half the time, and you're just shouting at me and you ripped up my workbook. And she'd be like, no, I didn't. And I'd be like, yes, you did. You know? And like, these are full-on meetings between this, like my parents and the school, so obviously everyone knew something was actually going on. And I was in year 6, I was 10 years old, and she was like in her 30s. And like, I literally, every single day of year 6 when I went into school, she would just have some reason to fucking pick and niggle at me and be really mean. And I just, to this day, I don't understand it, I don't get it, I was 10. Like, you were literally being like that to a 10-year-old. And it's the kind of thing that kept happening. Like, my teacher in year 11, Miss Chavitsky, she, again, just the moment I arrived, just fucking despised me and constantly would have a go at me. And at one point, she'd phoned up my dad to tell him something that I'd done in class. And, like, she kept me back after class and phoned my dad. And my dad was like, why are you telling me this? Like, that's such a minor thing. Just tell her off and carry on with the lesson. And she hung up on my dad and was like, well, clearly we know where you get it from, being so insolent and disobedient. And I remember just screaming at her. Like, I just went off. It was, I think it's one of like maybe 3 or 4 times in my entire life that I've just like seen red and started screaming at someone. And my fucking French teacher came in because our classrooms were all like connected, and he came in and he was like, Dana, what's going on? Are you okay? And I was like, she's just said this about my dad. And he was like, all right, and just went back into his classroom and closed the door so I could carry on shouting at her. And I ended up being removed from her classes because I'd done that. And like, that's the thing, she constantly made out that I was being like really aggressive and violent towards her, and it's like, I'm sat at the back of the class as far away from you as I can be, having you just scream at me across the class. Like, okay. But I ended up being taken out of her classes, so I absolutely fucked my fucking history GCSE, and she lost loads of lost my coursework as well, so that fucked me. Like, it was absolutely screwed. And again, it's like, I'm 15, 16 years old, and she is a full-grown woman in like her late 30s that's a teacher that just has beef with random students, like absolutely hates us. Like, it wasn't just me, she had one in like every year. Like, we never enough had a fucking support group going. And like, it wasn't even in school. I haven't really spoken about this on my channel before because it is like sort of like the darkest part of my childhood. Like, we moved back to the UK when I was 14, but my dad didn't know we were doing that. Me and my mum were meant to just be coming back on holiday for Christmas to see my brothers, and they were living in a B&B in Rill at the time, so we ended up also staying at the B&B. And then my mum had told the woman that owned the B&B just like all of our shit essentially. this woman was just nosy as fuck. So my mum told her everything. And then one night, like not long before Christmas, I get called in and she sits me down in her bedroom in the B&B to explain how I'm the reason my parents are breaking up and I'm just like the most manipulative, horrible little bitch in the world. And she can see exactly what I'm doing to my family and how I'm tearing everybody apart. And I'm the worst. Me, a 14-year-old, is ruining my entire family's life. It's not that my dad picked us up and moved us to a different country where no one ever spoke the language or knew anybody. It was not that. It was me being the most manipulative, intelligent. That's the thing, is they always acted like I was both like incredibly clever but also way too stupid to not be caught. And I was like, what do you think I am doing? Like, I'm 14 years old and crying in my bedroom because my parents are currently in different countries talking about splitting up. And now I'm being called down to have it explained to me how it's all my fault and I'm just the world's biggest bitch. And she knows I'm trying to get exactly what I want out of this. And it's like, I don't want my parents to break up. Like, that was pretty fucking consistent throughout my childhood and teen years, to the point where I was like, I guess to some people, I'm just a deeply unlikable person. Like, just from the moment they meet me, I'm deeply unlikable. But I've literally not had that happen as an adult, Like, I've met people who clearly, like, aren't a fan of me off the bat, but have done what any other fucking adult would do and don't spend time around me. So I suppose maybe it's that, like, they were stuck with me and they couldn't get away from me. But, like, you're a teacher. I'm going to be gone in a year. Like, I don't get it. Like, as a 27-year-old now, a 15-year-old could say anything to me, I'd be like, okay. Like, I don't care, you're 15, good luck, But, like, it's one of those things as well that definitely isn't just a me thing, Like, I knew from friends that had teachers that just randomly hated them. I remember my brother having to have meetings at one point because one of his teachers just fucking despised him. Like, it's just, I don't get it. It's so weird to me. The next one, I always sort of get it and then I sort of lose it. And it's why it was so important for me to play with other children my age as a kid. It was constantly putting me from my parents, from childminders that I had, from the teachers in my schools. I was always being told, like, oh, go and play with the other children your age. Because my thing in primary school was that I tended to play with kids that were either a good bit older than me or a good bit younger. I didn't really know how to interact and socialise with kids my age. And that's where I sort of get it. I'm like, I see why teachers maybe would be like, oh, go play with the other kids your age, you'll learn, But my parents had seen years and years and years of them forcing me to play with other kids my age and then me getting horribly bullied and traumatised, to be honest with you, and going home and being like, I never want to speak to another human being ever again because that was horrible. And it's like, you could have just let me play with kids that were like 2-3 years younger or older than me. And I would have learned more social skills because I would have been socialising with them. I just found that a lot easier than socialising with children my own age. But that was what I was constantly pushed and forced and told to do. And I hated it. It's really only the last like couple of years, since maybe turning like 24 or 25, that I tend to be able to get along with people that are like in my sort of age group. Before then, I just didn't know what the fuck to do or say with them, to be honest with you. And like, if someone was a little bit older, I tended to be like, oh, I like that, like, this thing that like my brothers liked, or like, this person liked. I like this thing that I know people your age like. And I'd be able to like get in there and get on with them. And similarly, if someone was a good bit younger, I've tended to have special interests that are meant for people a bit younger than I am. So I could bond with them over that. Whereas people my age tended to either be like, I don't know what you're talking about, or that's for babies. So I didn't enjoy it. And I consistently told the people around me, like, no, I don't enjoy doing that. And yet I would be taken away from the groups that I was actively enjoying being in to play with children my own age. Even though it made me want to play with anybody for like fucking weeks, if not months, I didn't like it. I don't know why they made me keep doing it. I don't know why they thought it was a good idea, Like, I'd understand it more if I'd been, like, completely isolated and didn't go and try to join in with anything. And, like, sometimes, after those situations, that was what I did. But so often it would be, like, when I had a friend or a little group that I was a part of, and they'd be like, no, not that one. You fucked it. You fucked it up. Now, the next one is another one that I get to a point, but then I lose it. And that's why it was so fucking important for me to eat a varied diet. And I say that in the way of, like, I eat quite a lot of different types of foods. Even as a child, as much as I was called a fussy eater and told I was picky and whatever else, it was about very specific things, you know? It was a case of like, my mum would make a chicken curry and the first bit of chicken I bit into would have like a big bit of fat or gristle, and I couldn't eat the rest of the meal because it was so fucking disgusting. But you know, like, I wasn't the type of child that like refused to eat any vegetables or things like that. It would be things like I remember at one point my mum wanted me to have mint sauce for my dinner and I didn't want it. So then we had hours of being sat at the table while everyone had to wait for me to try the mint sauce, and then everyone just ate because I wasn't going to try the mint sauce, and I was just sat there on my... Sorry if things look a bit different, my memory ran out. But yeah, like, I tried, like, I ate quite a lot of different things, you know? Like, there were various things I enjoyed. My mum quite regularly made like salads and veggie plates and like fruit plates, and I enjoyed them. But she had this whole thing, and people in my school, you know, like the dinner ladies at school and the way that we were made to eat lunch at school, had this whole thing of like, no, you can't just eat the same thing every day. And it's like, why not? Like, if I'm getting like the general like balance of things that I need, which I was, why can't I eat more or less the same thing every day? You know, because I really stressed that like I ate lots of different types of vegetables. It was just like, for example, I wanted an egg mayo sandwich every day in my lunch. Egg mayo was my shit. My mum could put cucumber in it, she could put tomatoes in it, she could put lettuce in it. Whatever vegetable she wanted to shove in with my egg mayo was completely fine. I just wanted it to be egg mayo, but that wasn't allowed. You can't have egg mayo every day. You have to have ham, you have to have cheese, you have to have this. I'm like, no, I wanted fucking egg mayo, you know? So then I'd have a meltdown at the lunch table in school, and the teacher would be like, oh, you can't leave until you've eaten your dinner. And then the bell would ring and they'd be like, well, you've got to go to class now, you haven't eaten your sandwich, you've got to take that home, and your mum's going to tell you off. And then my mum would tell me off and be like, well, why didn't you eat it? I'd be like, because it's not egg mayo, you know? Like, I understand that it is important to get varied things within your diet so that you are, you know, getting the vitamins and minerals and whatever else you need, and protein and so on. I get that aspect of it. But if I can have the base thing every day that makes me feel good, that I'm able to eat, that is like the right kind of thing, that is a safe food, and you can just mix up the things that are in there so that it's still a varied diet without being varied things, why can't I just have that, you know? And a lot of things like that I often assumed were like my family and were my mum or whatever, but like I say, that was very much pushed on me at school as well. I would quite often go to get my pasta in high school, and they'd be like, you had pasta and cheese yesterday? I'd be like, yeah, I know, that's why I'm getting it with tomato sauce today. They don't know you had pasta yesterday, go to the sandwich bar. And it's like, I don't want a fucking sandwich. The pasta king station in my high school was fucking top. It was so good. And speaking of school, while I was there I didn't get it, and I still don't get it now. And that's why every kid has to be exactly the same. Like, my school was having absolute outrage over the fact they weren't allowed to monitor our hairstyles. Because, like, at one point they did do the whole, like, every girl has to have her hair pulled back and every boy has to have short hair. But then the girls, I finished high school in 2013. And the last, like, year or two I was there, the hairstyle that came in was the one that I think, like, someone in Little Mix or something had. It was the one that was, like, really long on one side with the fringe, and the other side was, like, all short and cropped. So obviously they couldn't put that back. But they also couldn't tell girls you're not allowed to cut your hair. So they like, absolutely lost their mind over that. So then we weren't allowed to dye our hair. We weren't allowed to have any sort of piercings or anything. I was constantly being told to take my badges off my blazer, badges off my bag, not allowed anything on my school bag. And I'll give, it pissed me off to the point that I did sort of take a stand with that one. I really pissed my school off, because I would study the fucking, like, rules that they gave us, and I'd be like, okay, doesn't say anything about what colour your shirt buttons are allowed to be. So then I'd just have an evening where I sat down and cut all the buttons off my school shirts and sewed on, like, little rainbow ones. And then I'd go into school the next day and they'd be like, you can't do that. And I'd be like, tell me where it says it. Tell me where it says that I can't do this. And then they'd phone my parents and be like, she's done this. And my parents would be like, she's not allowed. Tell us where it says she's not allowed. And, like, I get why it pissed them off, because, like, it wasn't in the rules. But also, like, why are we not allowed even the slightest bit of individuality? Like, just the slightest little taste of who I am as a person. Please, I'm begging you. Yeah, we had, I'm sorry, my chemistry teacher never wore a fucking bra. She wore these cutesy, like, little, like, fairly well-fitted dresses. Bitch never wore a bra. I stared at her nips for so many of my chemistry lessons. That wasn't inappropriate. That was fine. She could do that. Heaven forbid a girl dye her hair red. That was just too far. That was overstepping a line. Heaven forbid I had a Doctor Who badge on my blazer. What will people think? I'm letting down the community. Like, I so deeply, deeply, deeply don't understand it, especially because, like I say, like, this was one that I actively, like, took a stand on and that actively pissed me off while I was there. And I'd ask them, like, why does it matter? And they'd be like, do you think you're going to be allowed to do this in the workplace? And I'd be like, you're wearing a signet ring and a necklace. We're not allowed to wear jewelry. You're in the workplace right now and you have individuality. Why am I not allowed it as a teenager? The one time in my life where I realistically should be allowed to express myself and just get away with fucking anything and explore that side of things, and I'm not allowed. And you're telling me that, like, I won't have it in the workplace when you literally, it pissed me off to no end, and I still don't understand it. And if anything, I think it's for the best that I don't have and don't really think I want kids, because I would be a really annoying parent. I would absolutely back my kid on that kind of thing. And the final one also sort of ties back to school, because it was mostly in school. I still have it sometimes now when I'm like out at events and stuff, but it was mostly in school. When you're in a group of people and everyone suddenly starts doing something or going somewhere, and there were so many times in school that I was literally like, where are we going? What are we doing? And everyone would be like, Christ, Dana, it's this thing that we've all had planned and we've been told what to do and we know what to do. Like, there were so many times that we had our IT lessons and I would show up at the IT suite and there would just be no fucker there. And I'd have to just sort of like wander around the school and find someone that I recognised and be like, are we not meant to be in IT right now? And they'd be like, oh no, it's careers, or it's this, or it's that. Like, there was all sorts of shit that happened when we were meant to be having IT classes that everyone else knew about and went to. And I was just like, how the fuck do you know about it? Who told you this? And especially like in school, so often they're just like, oh, they told us. And I'm like, who is they? Who informs us of this? I haven't gotten any emails. It's not in my fucking planner. My parents haven't gotten a letter home. They haven't gotten a phone call. Like, I literally do not understand how we were supposed to know this thing was happening. And like, that was one thing that like really, really stressed me out in school. There were so many times that I was just like in the wrong place or in the wrong classroom or with the wrong fucking class, or just generally not where I was supposed to be. And everyone acted like I was bunking and skiving and like choosing to not be where I was supposed to be. And sometimes I did. Like, my PE lesson was last lesson on Friday and we had to walk down to the field that was near the school, so I just carried on and went home. Like, I was not sticking around for that. Like, I hated school. I really, really fucking hated school. I'm not saying that I never did bunk or skive, but there were so many times that I was not trying to. And it was just a case of like, we're 20 minutes into like what should be the lesson time. My class isn't in the fucking classroom that I thought they'd be in. I can't find them. I'm embarrassed. I'm genuinely humiliated that I don't know what the fuck I'm meant to be doing. And I would just fuck off home or go and like hide out somewhere, because I didn't know where I was meant to be. I didn't know who the fuck I was meant to ask. Anytime I did ask someone, they acted like I should already know. And it was all just so fucking confusing and embarrassing that I'd just leave. I'd just be like, I've had enough and I'm going. And I still don't understand how everyone else just seemed to like know what was going on all the time without like anyone seeming to like alert us to it. Like, everyone else just seemed to know, and I was like, I'm out the loop. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's going on. Everyone thinks I'm an idiot, and maybe I am, because I'm just very fucking confused a lot of the time. So yeah, that was, if anything, it was kind of my like school experience as an undiagnosed child, but also as like an undiagnosed autistic kid. I didn't have the energy to do an awful lot outside of school. You know, like for like the entirety of primary school, I finished school, I went home, I watched Hey Arthur, Mona the Vampire, Tracy Beaker and the Sarah Jane Adventures, and then I went to bed. Like, you know, I really like, I avoided doing anything outside of school when I could, because I was just so fucking tired from going to school. And even as a teenager, like, I watched Supernatural from when I got in until like 1 a.m. and then I'd wake up like 6 and go to school and watch Supernatural when I got in until like 1 a.m. You know, like, I spent like 4 years straight on Tumblr more or less when I was in high school. I just didn't go anywhere or do anything outside of it because it was exhausting. But yeah, that's the video. They're things that I still just don't understand and don't see the importance of. I don't understand why people act like they're a big deal. And I don't think I ever will at this point. You're welcome to try and explain in the comments or let me know like the things that you don't understand and the things you don't get. But like, I don't think I'm ever going to understand these ones, to be honest with you. So yeah, that's that. I usually post videos on Tuesdays, Thursdays and Sundays, but for December I am posting a little bit more often because I find it rough, and hopefully other people might get a bit of enjoyment out of extra content if they find it rough too. So that's that. Like and subscribe if you like it, I guess. If you want to see more from me, you can also go and follow me over on Instagram or TikTok. I will link those down below. And I will also link my Patreon and Ko-fi if you wanted to help me out financially. But as always, there's no pressure. You don't have to. It's all fine. It's all dandy. I don't expect you to. It's Christmas. Spend your money on something delicious to eat on Christmas Day. So yeah, that's me. Over and out. That's not what I say. Whoever you are and wherever you are, I hope you have a lovely morning, evening, day, afternoon, week, month, year. And I will see you again in a couple of days.